Hey everyone, welcome back to Clarke's Closer Look. I'm Marcel Clarke, and this week we're taking a closer look at all things Super Bowl. We got the chance to sit down with TV host and sports commentator Julia Sun to help break down what to look for in each team, what kind of records are being broken, and how much commercial ads are costing this year. I hope you enjoy our segment. Julia Sen, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about this fun topic. As we know, this is not the first time the Chiefs and the Eagles are playing in the Super Bowl. They played back in 2023, but what major differences should we be looking out for this year?
Well, the prediction overwhelmingly is it's going to be pretty close. Nobody is looking at a 10-point lead. So that should stay pretty much the same. The big difference that we're looking out for is the star on the Eagles side is undoubtedly Barkley. Saquon Barkley, what a historic season, right? Year
Yes.
one with the Eagle, and for everyone who didn't follow him before the Super Bowl, he actually played for the Giants. He's a New Yorker. He's from the Bronx, not so far from where I'm sitting right now. Number 2 draft pick years back, though none of those seasons with the Giants went as well as his first season with the Eagles. 2,000 yards
Yeah.
in the regular season and nearly 450 yards in the postseason. He's on par with, for those of you who remember, Terrell Davis. Terrell Davis held the single season rushing record. He actually set it twice back in 1997 and 1998. It's been that long, yeah.
Wow.
And then you have somebody like Barkley coming out searching for a place at the top of that chart. That's incredible for any football player. You just know that nothing would make it sweeter than a Super Bowl victory, a Vince Lombardi trophy. But for Barkley in particular, it's more interesting. He would look back and think, geez, I can't believe I played my first Super Bowl on my birthday.
I know.
I know.
Combination of everything.
Yeah, it would be memorable no matter what. So that's the different factor that we're looking at.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things that all eyes are on Barkley and also Jalen Hurts as well.
Yeah.
But who kind of has the more of the pressure being under that spotlight come Sunday? Would you say it falls under Barkley?
Yes, because he has to prove himself. He wants a fairy tale ending to this season. But I would also say the pressure is on also for the Chiefs. I
Mhm.
mean, the Chiefs, they essentially want to become the Patriots. We all know that. They want to become a football dynasty. They want to be football royalties, and some of them already are. I don't need to talk more about this whole Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce tight end duel. I've talked about that on different shows. I don't know how else to describe that dynamic. It's powerful. It's just they just intuitively know what to do with each other. That connection amazed a lot of football analysts and me. I'm not sure if that kind of connection can be built from the ground up, because I don't really know if it's possible to
Mhm.
build that kind of chemistry, but they clearly have that chemistry and they have that partnership going well for them. I think the pressure on the Chiefs side for somebody whose name is not Mahomes would be the defensive coordinator, Coach Steve Spagnuolo. He
Yes.
has such an important job to do, because before he was effective, but Jalen Hurd was able to advance the offensive line. So he needs to think through this, what else he can come up with for the game in the future. I do think he has very important role to play. We were
Yeah.
just talking about how dominant, how unbelievable Barkley
Mhm.
is, and what he can do with just a single touch, really. And this Eagle offense is pretty dangerous, to
Mhm.
be frank. Barkley can run the ball. A lot of other players can run the ball. Hell, Jalen Hurts can run the ball.
Yeah.
You can just run it. And Coach Spag is basically tasked with slowing down that offense. He needs a super solid game plan if the Chiefs want to go for that dynastic finish. I don't know what strategy he has right now. That's what we will see. Remember the game they met before? That was a high-scoring game
Yeah.
that saw the Eagles took an early lead. The Chiefs eventually they won with a late field goal, but it was not a breeze. Jalen Hurts always wanted to keep that efficiency and make it tough for the Chiefs. So what else Coach Spag can come up with? That's the question.
Yeah, and I want to dive more into maybe what's next for him in a little bit. But speaking of that dynasty, the Chiefs are
Yeah.
looking to make history here in this win. If they do take this win on Sunday, that makes them the first team to three-peat the Super Bowl, which is huge here. Can you break down the history of that and why it's been very complicated for a lot of teams to make that record in the
Well,
past?
just because so many football teams are so dominant.
Mhm.
And every year, of course, different teams, they get new players, old players, they retire. So yes, once you develop that dynamic, yes, maybe you can keep it for a year or two, maybe 5 or 6 if you're really lucky. But it's just very difficult. It's not like you always get someone like Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. So one, you have him or them, you want to keep that momentum going, and that's why they're trying to do that. And as you said, it's so rare. It's so rare. And what's putting the Kansas City Chiefs in such a bright spot is this Taylor Swift relationship. So more people are tuning in to the
Yeah.
Super Bowl than ever. They are trying to capitalize. They have been capitalizing. In fact, the commissioner, Roger Goodell, he was asked, like, by so many people, did you plan this? Because
Yeah.
the NFL's rating is going out the roof. Like, he's like, no, I could not have planned it, but it's good for us.
Yeah.
For us.
We'll take the win.
Not
Yes.
complaining whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
So Kansas City Chiefs, they're in a prime position to capitalize on those attention, on those eyeballs, and hopefully they get what they want. And even if they don't get what they want, they will be future Hall of Famers. We know.
Oh yeah. Well, we've been mentioning two key players here. Of course, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. There's a lot of comparisons. I'm sure you saw this, but in an interview with Jimmy Fallon, Rob Gronkowski was questioned on who is the greatest player of all time, which he answered that question, quote, Patrick Mahomes is definitely the greatest player in the NFL right now, but in order to get into the GOAT talk as the greatest of all time, I'm going to be a little biased because I played with Tom Brady and I think he's the greatest player of all time. He's proven that he is the greatest player of all time. Julie, I'm so curious. What are your talks on his response?
Well, I would say just because somebody isn't where they are or where they want to be at this moment, it doesn't mean they will never get there. I want to remind everybody who's watching your show and my show and everybody's show that remember Tom Brady was, I don't want to say nobody, but he didn't have any attention on him when he was drafted. He was the 199th draft pick. And in fact, if I recall correctly, ESPN went on to commercial break when he was picked. They didn't think he was going to be making a splash or anything like that. But look at his career. Look
Yeah.
at his career. So I do think that Tom Brady, as of today, he is still the GOAT. That doesn't mean records cannot be broken because I think records are meant to be broken.
This is correct. This is very true. Yeah, it's always fun to see the conversations between who's the greatest of all time when it comes to Mahomes.
And I've debated on different shows, not debated, but I've discussed this on different shows of athletes of different sports. Yes, somebody can be the GOAT today. It doesn't mean they'll be the GOAT 10 years later because somebody else could come along, somebody else emerging, somebody you have heard of, or somebody you may have never heard of, somebody who hasn't been born, who hasn't born yet. You just never know. And that's the beauty of sports.
Yeah, yeah, it's super unpredictable for sure. We talked about and brushed it a little bit lightly with the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. I feel like he's been very successful in his role, leading the team obviously into now the third Super Bowl here this Sunday. But could we potentially see him, in a bigger role and down the line? Can you see that for his future? Maybe
Definitely. I
being
can
a
definitely see,
coach?
especially, yes, especially he wins because think about where Tom Brady's coach came from. He
Yeah.
was a coordinator too. So it's not like you get hired as a head coach right away. No,
Yeah.
that's a top job.
Yeah.
So you start as a defensive coordinator, you start as an offensive coordinator, whatever your strength is. Yeah, definitely. I can see him in a bigger role down the line
Yeah.
and say, oh, maybe whichever team, wait, we're going to hire Coach Spag, and nobody would be surprised.
Yeah, no shock there. Let's talk about that money coming in. Of course, the
Yeah.
Super Bowl ads, the commercials. A lot of people just tune in for that when it comes to the game. You mentioned the Taylor Swift phenomenon, though. Talk to us about the numbers that we're seeing? How is that adding to those record costs that we're seeing when it comes to advertisement?
Okay, let me break the cost down for you first, and we can get a little bit more into the
I
Taylor
know
Swift.
there's so
We
much
love
to
Taylor
break
Swift,
down.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Super Bowl ads costs $8 million for a 30-second spot. I mean, yes, some people are paying a little bit under that, and let's say up to $8 million. And pregame 30-second spot, 4.5 million approximately. Post-game spots, $4 million. Keep in mind, everybody, this is only the cost to air the commercial. It doesn't include production cost. It doesn't include the fees you have to pay the celebrity that you want appear in your spot. I know a lot of people have been talking about, oh, AI can just make everything. No.
Not the same.
If it's a faceless commercial, yes, but I can tell you all of those ads with faces, with celebrities, you want them there, and it just costs a lot of money, and it costs up to $8 million to air that for 30 seconds. And 30 seconds sometimes is all you need, because hey, who has the attention span? And so give everybody a little bit of context. Back in 1960, the first Super Bowl, a 30-second spot. Guess how much it cost back then? $37,500.
Julia, no. What
I know. You can account for inflation and all that, but that was like nothing. Okay. Back in 2015, $4.25 million.
Wow.
And early 2020, so 2023, 2024, approximately $7 million.
Wow.
It was a one-way street. It's a one-way street. And partly it is because, well, people's attention span are getting shorter. So this is like the place you get everybody's attention. So watch this.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
rationale.
It's a
Taylor
time.
Swift definitely played a role. Here are some of the numbers that I read from some of the recent surveys. They're not surprising, but astounding regardless. So 41%, according to one survey, 41% of the respondent between the age of 18 and 34, so that's the critical demo, say that they tune in to the Super Bowl because of Taylor Swift. It
Wow.
doesn't mean they would only pay attention to her. They might watch the entire game, but they came because of her.
Mm-hmm.
They came because of her. They're like, hey, what is she up to? Oh, let's watch the game. This is cool. And then there was this consumer survey. It's not done by a traditional polling organization like Gallup. It was done by Lending Tree. But regardless, the results, I feel it's telling. 13% of the Americans consumers said their interest in watching the game has grown because of Taylor.
Really?
Yeah. And among Gen Z and millennials, so our generation, it's 24% and 20% respectively.
Wow.
And I also find it interesting that six-figure earners are a lot more likely to say they're more interested in football because of Taylor. 1 in 5, right? And here's what's this is what intrigues me the most. Okay.
Yeah.
When you think about Taylor's fans, I don't want to generalize, but most fans are like teenage girls, young girls, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm broken. I'm gonna listen to her songs. But here's what's so interesting: 15% of men say they're more interested in football because of Taylor.
Okay.
More than
Good.
teenage girls,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, more than teenage girls. I do have a couple of guy friends. They
Yeah.
went to the concert. They're like, I'm gonna pay for the ticket no matter what. I'm gonna go to Argentina and Paris.
Yes.
They did all that,
Mhm.
their own tour. So they're Taylor Swift fans, but usually when you think about it, you're like, okay, teenage girls.
Mhm.
But that being said, yeah, a lot of women, a lot of young women, a lot of teenage girls, they are learning more about football, even tuning into Super Bowl because of Taylor Swift, because they are Swifties. And that's a lot of new viewers and fans. So no wonder Roger Goodell and the Chiefs and everybody, they're so happy.
Commissioner is a happy man right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
No complaints there.
Yeah,
No, I love the
because
numbers
think
too.
about it, the NBA, for example,
Yeah.
really quickly.
Mhm.
NBA is the most watched sports internationally,
Mhm.
but within the United States, NBA's viewership hasn't done as well,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
if they have somebody like Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
Imagine how happy they would be. They don't have somebody like that yet.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it definitely added more people to tune into their screens on Sunday. And yeah, I love those numbers that helps break down. And I love that more men are watching too because of that. It's not
yeah.
just the teen girls and all. So
Right. It's not just the teen girls. Like I think something like the women between the age, like younger women in their in 20s and teenagers, they contribute to nearly or approximately 2 million more viewers
wow.
over the past couple of years. It's a lot. It's a
Mhm.
lot.
Do we have any predictions on maybe how many people will be tuned in this year, or is that too?
I didn't find anything that's so reliable, but the prediction is more.
Mhm.
Is more. That being said, I gotta say, people are a little jaded. Football fans are a little jaded that, it's the same two teams playing each other. And if you watch the conference championship game,
Yes.
Bills and the Chiefs, we know what happened.
Mhm.
So some of the football insiders would say, well, they didn't win fair and square.
Mhm.
If the quarterback was not Mahomes, the game would have had a different outcomes. And for all the Bills fans, it's heartbreaking. I mean,
Mhm.
they're not unfamiliar with heartbreaks,
Mhm.
but it's just another January where their dreams didn't come true.
Yes.
They want to go back to the Super Bowl. It didn't happen.
Mhm.
And a lot of football fans, as you know, are saying, well, it shouldn't have been the Chiefs. It
Mhm.
shouldn't have been the Chiefs, even though they have the upper hands going into the Super Bowl. Once they clear their conference championship hurdle, they got the upper hands, but they said maybe the Bills should have advanced
Mhm.
because what happened during
During
that.
yeah.
So I would say I see a lot of, chatters, headlines saying, they're really the villain.
Yeah, so there's a lot of spicy conversations after that game for
Yeah,
sure.
right.
Curious, so Julia, final thoughts when it comes to the commercials, obviously the boost in advertisements that we're seeing. Obviously, we have the commercials that include big artists and then the funny moments. And then we also have a lot of call to action
Yeah.
commercials that we might see. Are there any, though, that you are excited to see when they finally hit the air? Because we've seen a preview and there's been some with even influencers. I'm hearing that Alex Earl might be in one of them as well. So we're going to see maybe like a change of things that we've seen from previous years, but is
Yeah.
there one that comes to mind?
I don't have particular one that comes to
Okay.
mind at the moment.
Yeah.
But in general, I mean, because every year when I tune in a commercial, I follow the comedy
Yes.
more than anything. But I will say that given where America is right now, whatever your political, ideology is, there will be some messaging, social messaging of that sort. Maybe it'll be controversial because people get mad
Hmm.
with
Yeah.
everything and anything nowadays. That's just to be expected.
Mhm.
Especially the timing is interesting that given the administration is full on effort to get rid of DEI, and the NFL said we're not playing along. Right. Roger Goodell came out and said, yeah, they are still dedicated to add diversity in all levels of America's most popular sport.
Mhm.
Because what happens in the league is sometimes it's not just the players or certain high level positions, but even for some of the mid level positions in the front office.
Yep.
If they are pro DI initiatives, yes, they would interview candidates from all different backgrounds before making a decision. Even, like maybe we have a right person, but yes, we will keep searching just to make sure we don't leave anybody out. And at the end of the day, yes, the person who's not, in the administration's word, DEI hire would still get the job.
Mhm.
But they still want to continue with that process and not get rid of altogether. So that's something Roger Goodell has been extremely clear about. So the timing of that is interesting. So whatever social message, I'm sure it'll be scrutinized.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what unfolds because I'm sure there'll be little like messages here and there.
Yeah,
So just a few days away. I'm excited to see what unfolds. But Julia, thank you so much for coming on here and breaking this down.
I
You're
love talking to
great to
you.
talk to you.